This is a big topic during a mock trial. Witnesses will testify and they'll be giving information that is either not in their affidavit at all or it's completely contradicting their affidavit. And you got to be ready to object to this. Witnesses, you got to be ready to avoid this objection and explain why you're saying what you're saying. The first step is if a witness says something that's contradicting or not in their affidavit, you can impeach them. And you're going to impeach them using the impeachment steps we learned in the prior inconsistent statement lesson. So you're going to have to refer to that and look up how to do that if you're an attorney, and be ready for it if you're a witness, because if you're saying something, any information that actually goes against your affidavit, you're risking looking kind of dumb because the attorney can pull out your affidavit, bring it up to you, and make you read to the court the truth. And if it's different than what you said, then you've just been made to look like a liar. And everything you say for the rest of the trial is kind of discolored and colored with lie. So you don't want to look like that. The other example or the other strategy you can use is to object for a contradiction. It's a special mock trial objection. Obviously, it doesn't work in real life because there are no affidavits that people get given before trials. But if you contradict your affidavit, there's these special objections called 2.2 and 2.3. You can look it up in the mock trial rules. That's what MTR means in your objection cheat sheet. And you just say, Your Honor, this testimony contains an unfair extrapolation. And an unfair extrapolation is something that's so different than the actual facts that it materially affects the outcome of the case. So it would be like saying that a major witness is completely lying because they were in Cancun the entire time that the crime occurred. So they don't know anything about the crime. If you add in a crazy fact like that, like the witness was overseas, then you've completely changed the case. I mean, that witness has to be lying about everything if they were overseas. They couldn't have seen the crime like they're claiming. They couldn't have uh, known anything about the crime because they were in Cancun. So don't add crazy things. And if anyone tries to add a crazy fact, like, oh, this witness couldn't have been there because they were actually on a rocket ship at that day, or they couldn't have pulled the trigger because they're actually their worst fear is guns, and whenever they see one, they puke and they pass out, and they're passed out for days. If you add really weird theories into your case, you're going to get objected to. It's not going to work. Don't try it, and be ready to use these objections to keep anybody from doing that at the mock trial, because people will have crazy theories, and you'll have to use that objection to eliminate them. Now, whenever an exhibit comes in, have your exhibit introduction steps ready. Look at them. Make sure that your opponent is following all the steps. Because if they get an exhibit in, they've had a major success. It looks good when you correctly, as a student, introduce an exhibit, have your witness testify about it, get it admitted into the record. It looks like you're just on fire. You're making points, you're showing off trial skills. It looks good. So you want to prevent that from happening. Don't let them look good. If they skip a step, if they didn't come and show you the exhibit beforehand, if they didn't have the witness lay the foundation for that exhibit, object. Show them that you know the rules better than they do. You know how to do things better than them. All a mock trial is about is showing who knows the trial skills best. That's what it's about. It's not necessarily who's the best arguer out there. It's who knows the trial skills, which are the objections and introducing evidence and laying the foundation for evidence, laying the foundation for witnesses, that kind of stuff. The last point to make here is about closing arguments. You may see something in a closing argument that you want to object to, but believe it or not, you can't object during a mock trial closing argument. What you have to do is you have to wait till the case is over, and then you can raise your objection then. You would say, Your Honor, I wanted to object during a closing, but since you can't, I'm saving it till now. And my objection is blah, blah, blah. And basically, the major objection that you can make about a closing is that an attorney mentioned a fact that they didn't prove during the trial. If you recall, an opening statement can mention anything that you plan on proving, and that's okay. If you don't end up proving it, you don't end up proving it. But in a closing, you can only mention things that you did successfully prove. So a lot of times, student attorneys will plan a certain closing argument that they memorize, And when something happens during the trial that keeps a piece of evidence out that they didn't expect, come time for their closing, they're just going to go off their memorized closing. They're not going to alter it to change based on what happened in the trial. So you can object to it later after the trial and say, you know what, this attorney mentioned something in their closing that we actually kept out of trial. They didn't prove this fact. So that wasn't fair. And that'll make you look smarter than them. So that's a good objection to make.